Hello and welcome to the Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, a very special guest, former U.S. Marine. He's, of course, a big-time NWA superstar, Mr. Magic Man himself, Magic Jake Dumas. Jake, welcome to the Two-Man Power Trip. How you doing?
Ta-da! How you doing? I'm tired, and I've had a busy day, but I'm excited to be on the show.
What is going on in your world? Are you preparing for NWA 74 or what?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been excited for 74 and these next couple of weeks of tapings. Um, Obviously, just recently announced a big match against Mercurio. So yeah, I've been training every day of the week, getting ready for that big matchup.
So NWA 74 obviously will be a part of the 74th anniversary of the NWA
Mhm.
on August 27th and August 28th at the Chase, the legendary Chase in St. Louis, Missouri. What's it like working in the Chase? I mean, it's a legendary building.
So I actually talked about this on my social media just recently. This is so cool. I was at 73. I was actually, I was part of the ring crew for 73.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Nice.
Absolutely, yeah. And I, in any aspect of professional wrestling, I've always been honored just to be a part of the team and be able to help out and everything. But I was standing 10 feet away from where Ric Flair was when he gave his address to the NWA family. And I thought that was so cool. But what was even cooler is, last year I was ringing the bell for NWA 73. This year I was on the poster. So it it the atmosphere at the Chase is just amazing. Like you've you know so many historic matches. I can't remember how long it had been. Something 27 or 37 some odd years where the Chase did not allow wrestling to come back to that historic place, and to be a part of the NWA, where obviously Ric Flair, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, um, Harley Race, all of those guys who had once stepped foot in the ring at the Chase, now being able to stand where they stood. It's like, we're standing on the shoulders of giants right now. And it's just so cool. You can, when you get in there, you can feel the history of the building and how monumental the moment is. And we're going to see if on night two, we're going to see if Mercurio can stand up to the moment like I can.
That's so cool, though. Like to go from one spot in 73, it's like, oh, I'm watching these legends. And then you get thrown in the mix. I mean, you're right there with them. I mean, that's like a kind of a dream come true right there.
Oh, it's crazy. It's you know you don't get vindication a lot in this sport. There's a lot of thankless nights. There's a lot of bumps that hurt more. Um, Alex Taylor, who's part of the Ill Begotten with Jeremiah Plunkett, is a really good friend of mine. And we travel around Tennessee and a lot of the surrounding areas a lot. We have this agreement that the bumps that hurt the worst are the ones in front of, two or three people in the crowd that, the promoter didn't promote very well. So, we're bumping and feeding in front of two or three people and sometimes nobody. And that's kind of like, that's my, my word of confidence to a lot of people is just keep going, because you never know where you're going to end up in a year. I looking back on my life 2 years ago, I would have never imagined, I'd be sitting here as Magic Jake Dumas with, all my black hair and everything that I've got going on for me right now. I never would have, coming from where I came from and growing up the way that I did, I would have never imagined I had the level of success that I have now.
Very cool. And the
Mhm.
gimmick itself, it's so different than what you normally see because it makes you stand out more, right? I mean, to me, a lot of the guys, let's say, generic wrestler A, B, it's like, okay, they might be able to good in the ring, but there's no investment in them. There's no character. That's where the magic kind of comes in, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of tough guys in wrestling today, and there's very few that can pull it off anymore. And I think the problem is there aren't a lot of guys. A lot of people grow up and they're like, well, they hear that old adage, just turn yourself up to 11. and I think they think that means I have to be bulletproof, I have to be Superman, I have to be this, that, or the other, and all it comes off as is, I'm just angry wrestler A, B, or C, who I'm looking for respect in the ring. I'm looking for, I'm looking to be the champion. I'm looking to be the number one guy. If it came down to Magic Jake, all I want you to do is believe in the magic.
Where did that come from? Is it really like the Greatest Showman, almost like the Hugh Jackman thing, or like where does that kind of emanate from?
Uh, Magic Jake is it's crazy because Magic Jake truly is me turned up to 11. A lot of the base roots of Jake are mine. Um, I got so the Magic Showman is one of my favorite. Or sorry, the Greatest Showman is one of my favorite shows I've ever seen. It's a wonderful adaptation of a very good musical stage play. But I also, along with my background, I've been an actor for almost 10 years now. I have my bachelor's of fine arts in performance and directing, and that's kind of along with all of that, I actually am a magician. I actually know
Oh,
how to do magic, and you guys will see in some special segments coming up in the next season, produced by the guys behind This Is Pro Wrestling, um, Gary and all those guys. We're going to do some backstage segments where you'll see me actually doing magic for the boys, and it's going to be I've got a lot of cool stuff planned. But yeah, Magic Jake is it's a mix of the Greatest Showman and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, um, and mixed with Gangs of New York. It's all of these things mixed in, but it's the parts that resonate with me that make the character real.
and that's cool though. You were a musician. I mean, a magician,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, wow, this guy's playing a magic character. I don't know if that's believable. You really are a magician. It's very
I am.
believable. Yeah,
Yep,
that's
I am
awesome.
100% a magician. Yep.
Magician, pro wrestling. Like, how do those two come together?
You know, it's funny. Growing up, like I had a very tumultuous uh, situation growing up where a lot of times Friday nights and Monday nights were an escape for me. Um, and along with that, I wasn't always the popular kid. I wasn't always, the most liked. And I would always try, and this is not this is not a PSA for anybody to do the same thing I did. I wasn't always open to being myself for people to make them to make friends that way. I was always trying to find out, what can I do for people so they'll like me. And that's actually how I ended up learning magic. Um, it was just it was a good way to make friends and get attention where I guess I was craving that at a young age, but it turned out to be turned out to help me a lot in the long run. Um, Obviously, where I am now. So
So it's almost like you're doing some magic tricks, and people are starting to like you because you could do cool tricks and cool stunts, but they're also paying attention to you. So you become either friends or friendly with them.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's so crazy because it's in a Carney-esque way. I'm
Yeah.
tricking you into being my friend because I'm entertaining to you, so you'll keep me around. But that's the part that's real about Magic Jake is it's I'm I hope you're entertained by my magic, which will keep me around in your eyes.
It's funny, the Carney aspect, magicians, wrestling. I mean, Carney, and it goes right in the middle of those two, right? That's the
Absolutely.
connection.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
with you, like, do you like the fact that you're going to be, as far as like the magician stuff, exploring that aspect of like yourself and kind of maybe delving into your past a little bit? Because it's almost like you're going backwards to go forward with Magic Jake.
Oh, absolutely. I think uh, people always herald the Undertaker for being the greatest story ever told in pro wrestling. Um, I I will go on to make a statement now that I I believe Magic Jake will go down as I don't think I don't think anybody will ever compare to the Undertaker, but I will stand up right now and tell you that I Magic Jake will be one of the greatest stories ever told in professional wrestling, and that's because it will be a real story.
Now, obviously, with you is the lovely and beautiful CJ, Christy Janes.
Right.
How is that relationship? How does that go? Do you like need this? Like, not like you need a second because the magicians always have a second. Was
Mhm.
that like kind of the gist behind it, almost like of putting you guys together?
So CJ's a very talented individual. Um, and there was it's not necessarily that something was missing from the gimmick. It was what is I guess there was you know I say this a lot because I teach at a wrestling school in Hendersonville. I'm not ever telling you, there's a way to do a move or a segment or a spot and it's good, right? It's the bare minimum. It will get you by. It will um it will work in a wrestling match. Then there's great. Great's something everybody wants to watch. They'll see it, they'll never question it. And then there's amazing, right? There's always, and I tell my guys this all the time, there's always a room to make it to amazing. No one's ever going to be perfect. That's unattainable. You can't be perfect. You'll have perfect moments, but sometimes you're you're just striving for amazing. CJ was the part that took me from great to amazing. She's so talented. She does very well. She's so smart about her movements and her choices. Um, and it's she's a very integral part to the character at this moment. And it I'm so glad they they stuck me onto her so that we're working together a lot to bring some really cool stuff to the table.
I like the pairing. I mean, obviously she's great, but like you're kind of coming up, and this character is really starting to build himself up. So I always like when a character has a second or a manager or valet. It could be a manager, male too, but really the female valet, like Cross in WWE with Scarlett, or
Right.
Miz when he has Maurice. It just enhances the guy. It's almost just more grand for some reason. It enhances the character to me.
Yeah, it's nothing to, I mean, you don't look at those guys and go, "Oh, that's the second fiddle." You don't look at those guys and say, "Oh, that person's unimportant," or they're not gonna they don't work one way or the other. They're not as important as the person that they're coming down with. It's not an enhancement of one person. It's a tale of two people, and that is incredibly important. Um, because you can have managers. I mean, I can tell you this: you're never going to think about Killer Cross without Scarlett Bordeaux. You're never going to think about you're never going to think about Miz without Maurice. You're never going to think about um, you're not going to think about these big characters without their versions of assistance. But I mean, I would argue that CJ down the line is going to become way. If you think she's important now, she is way more important in the long game than
Macho
anybody's.
Man Elizabeth style.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, uh, I wouldn't even say that. I think it's it's so much more than uh, even that story. It's so complicated, but I'll save the magic for a little bit later. I don't want to spoil any tricks that I've got down the line.
Nice, a true magician. There, you don't want to spoil the tricks, right? I mean, that's
Right.
the name of the game.
Absolutely. 100%.
So with NWA, I know people are going to say kind of like maybe a generic answer, but give me something different here about Billy, because Billy Corgan obviously runs NWA, owns NWA, but they're like, oh, he's great. He's from Smashing Pumpkins. He brings his celebrity. But tell us, maybe a little bit something we haven't heard about Billy.
Billy Corgan has one of the most. He's. I don't know how to say this. When it comes to creative, there is so many tiers to his brain that he sometimes, like, it'll make your head spin how much Billy thinks about creative and how he thinks about connecting the dots and everything. But another thing that Billy does very well is he can see the truth in characters. He can see the truth in people, and he pushes people towards that truth. Um, Billy, I've actually grown very, very close to Billy since becoming Magic Jake. And he's given me so many opportunities, and I'm so thankful for everything he's ever done for me. Him, Pat Kenny, obviously, a lot of the agents backstage at NWA. But Billy also understands that he can't wear every hat. Like he understands that he needs creative help. He needs multiple viewpoints, because once you proclaim that you're the man that knows everything, now you know nothing, right? Um, you can't try to head a whole company by yourself. So I think Billy knows very, and it's so Billy's one of the most interesting people to ever talk to. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, sometimes it's to his detriment, and sometimes it's to its favor. But it's always you never know what's going to happen next with Billy Corgan. And that's what's so cool. Like Billy has shared his how he was brought up and everything with me, and I see a lot of similarities about being a fighting artist. And you when Billy was coming up, this is the big chip on Billy's shoulder. When he was coming up, just like kind of like I was, everyone told him no. There was there was nobody that would take him on or believe in him. And for 99.999% of people in the entertainment industry, that will crush your soul. That'll keep you from doing anything ever again. But like me, for some reason, and I don't understand what it is, there is this. I love that feeling. I love it when people don't think I'll become something. I love that feeling when people overlook me and they don't think that I'm important enough to be considered. And I think Billy loves that feeling too. Count me out. Count us out. Don't pay attention to us. Don't look at us. And we will completely and utterly take everything you've ever had, and we'll rise above everything and become these major players.
Little chip on the shoulder, if you will.
It's the chip on the shoulder thing is so like, if you were to think of it as a chip on the shoulder, like whenever I think of chip on the shoulder stories, I think of Tom Brady.
Yep.
Picked, I can't remember if it was 6th or 7th round. But he went into it going, oh, I was picked in the 6th or 7th round. I'm going to show you that I should have been a 1st round pick. That's what I think of when I think of chip on the shoulder. I think it's more than that. I think it's, I'm going to do this or I'm going to die. That's I can't remember who the speaker was that always spoke on this topic, but and someone out there is gonna say it, and thank God that person's there. there's an old motivational speaker that says when you change your brain to say, I'm going to do this or I'm going to die, that changes how you think about things. There's when you go, it is this or non-existence. That changes how you play the game. That changes how you approach it. And I think that's how me and Billy work. It's I will I will build this temple or I will burn down with it. And that's such a it's such like chip on the shoulder means I didn't get picked in the 6th or 7th round. The way that me and Billy look at this is if I'm not gonna make this, then I'm nothing. It's my life.
Gotcha. Much deeper than that. I gotcha.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
With him, I interviewed him. I just want to say maybe about a year ago. So I was just surprised at like his wrestling knowledge. Because you hear like, oh, this famous person's a fan. You're like,
Oh yeah.
okay, yeah. You almost like say, oh yeah, brush off. Oh yeah, they're a big fan. He's like a historian almost with the stuff he knows.
Absolutely. He's absolutely a historian. I mean, obviously we're bringing back the US tag belts and the women's television championship. Um, he is all about history, all about prestige. And um, a lot of people in the company will call him a collector for the NWA's stuff. And it's not really, I don't really see it like that. I see him as a historian because these things are important. It's important to have the originals. It's important to have the history. It's important to have the guys that are 50, 60, 70 years old still in the back with us at NWA, because it's not about collecting everything the NWA's ever done. It's about rebuilding the empire that was the NWA from those ashes and bringing those along with us so people understand that it's not a company that started from this small thing and blew up into a big thing. It was an empire that fell that we are rebuilding.
I love it. You kind of, it's like old school, obviously with a new school flavor, but I just love that he's so passionate and so into it. Not just for the fact that he was a fan. I mean, he's a super fan. I mean, or it's like you
Mm-hmm.
said, and I even said like a huge historian. So it's much deeper, much more important to him than just like, oh, I like to have these belts. Let's add them on. He definitely he loves it.
It's an obsession. I would
Yeah.
say it's a healthy obsession.
I was just curious, like, were you always like a big wrestling fan? You wanted to get in? Like, did you follow NWA? Like, went back in, when it was hanging and banging, or were you just kind of, maybe a casual fan?
So like I said, when I was a kid, I used wrestling as an escape. So man, it's crazy. I don't even look at it as like I was a fan of it. It was something I needed. Like
So
I
not casual, not just Monday, Friday casual.
no,
Like
no,
you're
no,
loving
no.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I followed it and everything. And from when I wasn't into the NWA when I was a child, but ever since I've been in the company, I've gotten very much more in tune with NWA, and I've even gone back further. I watch so much way older stuff than the NWA now. I'm watching 1940s French catch wrestling right now to work on my
Wow.
game.
Wow.
I'm watching old British World of Sports from like the 1960s to figure out to sharpen my edge. And
You must be hanging out with Tom Latimer. He said he's been watching some World of Sport.
absolutely, that's Tom. First of all, okay, Tom, Jeremiah Plunkett, and Tom Latimer taught me at the Tried and True Academy in Clarksville, Tennessee. It was owned by Anthony Mayweather, still owned by Anthony Mayweather. It's still there. And I've grown up. Tom has watched me grow up in this business, and I like I said, I live in Hendersonville. I live like 10 minutes away from Tom. I almost see him every day. But yeah, him and I are always working on stuff, and we watch a lot of that stuff.
Did you always want to be a wrestler? I know, like you were a magician stuff. Did you always say, I want to do that? Like I want to, be in the business?
Uh, Funny enough, growing up, I I wanted to be a wrestler, and then reality hit. Um, I kind of looked at myself and I went, I've got to get out of the situation that I'm in. Um, I need to go into an environment where I can be constructive instead of destructive. So I went to the military. I was in the Marine Corps, and I actually was married during the Marine Corps, and I unfortunately I was retired from the Marine Corps. Um, I would still be doing it today if I could. Um, and my ex-wife is so that I truly there is a lot that I owe to my ex-wife because I wouldn't be where I am unless she had said this. But one day I came home from work. I had this grueling, excruciating kitchen job in downtown Nashville, and I had just worked a 12-hour shift. I'm covered in oil and grease and food, and I got oil and grease in my hair, and I coming through the door. I'm tired. I'm just destroyed from the day. I just want to take a shower and go to bed. Um, and it's like midnight. And I walk in, and she's sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of wine. And she kind of looks at me and she goes, "Jake, I know what I want to do with my life." And I went, "Oh no, here we go. Wow, what's this going to be? If you need a whole
Right,
glass of
right.
wine to tell me."
Yep.
Um, she looks at me and she kind of pauses for a second. She goes, "I want to be a professional wrestler." And I went, "Absolutely, 100%. Let's do it." And she never knew about my love of professional wrestling, and she didn't know anything about that. She's like, "This is not at all what I thought you would do." And I was like, "You don't know this, but I have been a super fan of professional wrestling my entire life." And we kind of went as a bonding experience. And when we went to the school initially, you got to pay for the school. Wrestling schools, it's not the most expensive thing in the world, but it's pricey. Um, and the Plunkett and Tom told me the obligatory, "Oh, you're doing great front roll. Wow, you really look great in that ring, stepping around." The stuff that, all these teachers are going to say just to make sure they keep their students,
Mm.
they're going to, not that Plunkett or Tom were ever too much like that. They were always they were more along the lines of, "You're going to get it. You'll get there." Um, but I remember after a little bit in the beginner's course of Tried and True, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks in, Tom was watching me. He was the teacher for the intermediate and advanced courses. He was watching me and he pulled me to the side and he goes, "Hey man, I know we tell a lot of these guys to keep going, they're doing great and everything and all this," but he pointed at me and he goes, "You get it. For some reason you are head and shoulders above everybody else in this class. um, you understand this so much more than you're these guys are getting it. You are nailing it." um, and I remember listening to that and going, "Wow, I could really do this." And at the end of my beginner's course, Plunkett sent me my review for the entirety of the course, and I'll never forget it. There's a line at the end of that course. I still have it. I still have that review to this day. I look at it a lot, and it says, "Keep your head down, keep learning, keep growing, and I think you will exceed and go much further than you ever believed you ever could have." And I thank Plunkett to this day for my whole entire career, because there's a lot of times where I was bumping in front of 2 or 3 people and I was ready to give up. And I look at that a lot, and it keeps me going.
Very cool. And obviously they weren't bullshitting you. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah,
they really saw something in you.
yeah, yeah. And I'm so happy that they did. Along that same question, I didn't it didn't occur to me until just recently, especially as I was growing as Magic Jake, um, that now it's not about me wanting to be a professional wrestler anymore. It's about me being, it's so much more important than, money or championships or anything like that. I want to be the guy that when kids are having a rough time and they don't feel like they're being appreciated, and when they don't feel like they're being loved and they don't feel like they're valued enough in society, I want to be the guy that they look at and they go, nope, he did it. I can do it. I can keep going. If my whole career, if I go my whole career and one little kid is watching me and they go, I'm going to keep going because he said he could, he kept going, and look at where he is. If that little kid keeps going just for one more day longer, just because they saw me do my silly magic tricks and bump around in the ring, then all of it will have been worth it.
Very cool though, like to be a fan and make it, like do your magician stuff, and you know what I mean. Like you kind of put everything together that you always wanted to be when you were younger, but slowly but surely you get there as an adult. It's almost like like a little bit of a premonition. You set out to do it, and you really achieve the goals.
That's another thing that I would encourage people to do. A lot of people think that so many things are unattainable.
Right.
They think that, everything's impossible. I do think there is such a level of, you know, of delusion and disillusion, and you can really, a lot of people can gas themselves up to a point where, they are they're just like I said, they're delusional. They're at the point where they think their shit doesn't stink so much that, they can do it whatever they want in whatever they want. But as like, I still don't think I'm to the point where, um, global recognition and fame and fortune and all this, that, and the other. But it's weird going to places now and people knowing who I am and knowing my name before I ever introduce myself to them, and people wanting to know me and wanting to talk to me and all this stuff. Uh, Suffice, that's enough about me. Suffice to say, if you pursue, I there's something called there's a book called The Alchemist, and there's a really important lesson in it about once you start constructing the road to your dreams, the universe starts making those things available to you. Once you start putting your plan in action to achieve your dreams, the whole I think that the exact quote is, once you start making steps towards your dreams, the universe conspires to help you. And it's that meeting of drive, passion, work ethic, and then a little bit of luck. It's that little bit of luck that's going to come along sooner or later, that you're gonna get that little bit of luck. And as if you are prepared, if you've been working, if you've been trying this whole time, that's when you break through.
Very well said. You're very, very profound there. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
With you, just in general, what's a goal of yours for NWA? I mean, are you looking at the top? Are you looking at the big goal? The big goal. I mean, what are we looking at here? Or I'm sorry, the 10 pounds of gold. As far as the title,
It would be really cool if it was the big gold belt. No, but on
10 pounds
top,
of gold. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
on top of that, 10 pounds of gold is obviously it is the championship of all championships in professional wrestling. I believe that wholeheartedly. Um, you know, it's always been a fool's errand to say, "Oh, I want to be the champion," or "I want to be the number one guy." Saying that, when you put that out in the universe and you say, "I want to be the number one guy," um, it'll never happen, because people will say, this guy's in it just for the fame, or this guy's in it for the attention. I i want to be looked at as the reason the NWA empire was built again. i want people to look I want people to look at the end. Whenever people say, I see the end, whenever people are watching the NWA, they're going to go, Magic Jake built that. This was the empire that Magic Jake built. Because right now, we have our foundation in Nick Aldis and Trevor Murdoch and Ricky Morton and Tyrus. everybody that has already come, they've laid the foundation. Now it's time to erupt. Now it's time to construct the empire. And I want to be I don't want to be the emperor. I want to be the because the emperor will die one day. I want to be the empire of the NWA. I want people 120 years from now when NWA is the number one wrestling promotion in the world. I want people to look at it and go, this is because Magic Jake paved the way. Magic Jake was one of the guys that paved the way.
As we hit the wind down, we head towards the finish here. You've got obviously the big NWA 74 coming up, 74th anniversary show, Chase Ballroom, August 27th, 28th, two-night affair, because that's how big it is, night one and night two. But give us one last big sell for the Mercurio match with you and obviously CJ with the by your side.
Yeah. Mercurio, Mercurio's, he's lived his whole life. He's one of the fortunate people that has been, talented and good looking and loved by all these ladies. And he's wanted. And I don't think he understands exactly what it feels like to be unwanted and to be looked over and to be forgotten and to be the person that's not going to be chosen and the person that had to, reform themselves pound by society's hammer to be something that everybody wants to see and wants to have. So I'm going to show Mercurio what it's like to not be one of the beautiful people. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. There's one thing that I will tell Mercurio before NWA 74 is to make sure that you stay sharp. Stay sharp, Mercurio, because I know I will.
And obviously, the pay-per-view will be available wherever you get the pay-per-views and Fight TV. And there's still some tickets available at NWATix.com as well. But where do you see yourself? Let's just say NWA 74 and beyond, maybe even beyond wrestling. Like, where do you see yourself in a few years? I know you said kind of, the leader of the empire, but just on the grand scope, like, where do you see yourself and maybe just your career? Because I know you do some acting as well.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, I will always be a professional wrestler. I'm not one of those guys that wants to leave for Hollywood. Obviously, if the money comes and the movies come calling, I will take, I'll take my turn at, a few of those movies and everything. But, I love the NWA. They are the reason that I am who I am now. And if any, I'll say this, if anybody else came calling, I'm completely open and welcoming to any calls, but just understand you've got to show me that you are going to love me as much as the NWA has loved me and has done for me and so far. So I will tell you the future is wide open for Magic Jake and CJ. And I will tell you that Magic can be very, very, very grand. It can be wonderful. It can be scary. It can be destructive. It can be creative. But the most important thing is that you have to believe.
Love it. Spoken like a true showman right there. Absolutely.
That
Like we mentioned, NWA 74 is going to be big time coming up. But where can everybody find you? Social media, otherwise, and maybe some other stuff you got going on.
Yeah, it's super easy to find me. I am Magic Jake Dumas, Dumas, not dumbass, Dumas, like Frederick Dumas. It is Magic Jake Dumas on Twitter, Magic Jake Dumas on Instagram, and the Magic Jake Dumas on Facebook.
Nice. Thank you again for all the time, Magic Jake. And we'll all be looking forward to NWA 74, which will be at the Chase Ballroom, like I said, the 27th, 28th, coming up very, very soon. Good luck to you, and obviously good luck to CJ as well. I mean, this is going to be a big time show for the Magic Man. So thank you, Jake.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.